Hello and welcome to the SuperShow podcast. Returning is the return of the king. It's me, Chris, joined by the Fellowship of the Ring, Jamie, and the Two Towers, Alex Jones. How's everyone doing today?
Good, thank you, mate. Very good. How the hell are you?
Okay, yeah, good start on the multiple delays and Jamie just being quiet and whatever. Jamie, if you want to know, it's because you've got a ring and Jonesy has two dicks, which are quite tower-like. I mean, come on.
Okay. I see. I was trying to come up with Lord of the Rings jokes, but I wasn't prepared to be put on the spot. Oh, you know what? I was going to do like a Gimli style thing and my microphone, but I didn't. It didn't come to fruition in time. Oh. And then I was thinking, which of the Fellowship would each of us be? And like, obviously, Chris has to be a hobbit, but then what about me and Jonesy? And like, Jonesy does give off Aragorn vibes, but mostly because he sits in pubs on his own with his hood up.
That is so. That's so uncalled for. That's it's outrageous.
Hey,
but accurate.
I got in there early and called myself Gimli, so I think anything goes after that, right? I'm admitting that I'm the fat, stocky, dwarf-like character.
But I think you're just saying that because of when we did that tabletop experience of all-time gaming.
Yeah, you were an elven character in that, though, Chris.
Exactly. So if we're going by that,
is it Legolas?
Legolas, yeah. And then Jonesy, you'd be. Yeah, you'd be an Aragorn.
Sean Bean's character, maybe.
Yeah. Fucking what? Not Faramir. Fucking what's his name? It's completely escaped me.
Boromir,
that's the one. Yeah.
When in doubt, guess a name that ends in Mir.
Mir. Yeah. Mir Space Station. Fellas, it's been a long, hot while since we're all in the same house. I was the perpetrator last week, and I do apologize, but I did listen to the podcast because I am a fan, personally. And you know what? I listened to it on basically a podcasting platform of my choice. It just so happens to be Spotify. But hey, you can listen to it on Spotify too, or you can watch it on YouTube, or listen to it on iTunes, or go to Google Podcasts, or Deezer, Stitcher, Weezer, Fleezer, Beezer, Deezer, Ebenezer.
Are these more Lord
Ebenezer
of the Rings names?
I have no idea. It's possible. Like, I'm waiting for the next season of The Rings of Power, so anything can happen is what I'm trying to say. But it's good to be back in the saddle, as it were. Fellas, I'm happy to be here. I was just saying before we hit that record button that it's been a hot while since we've actually caught up, because coming in for these podcasts, we kind of like, we there we go. Fucking what, Jonesy, what are you doing?
It just makes him look like his head is the size of that guy from the new Star Wars films. And when I say new, I don't mean the new ones. I mean the ones that used to be new.
The prequels.
There's like one guy who sits
is it MODOK?
I don't know. He sits on the board of the council of the guys who sit next to Yoda.
I also love how Jonesy just said MODOK, which is a Marvel character. Anyway.
I thought you said, is he Marvel? Oh, yeah, sorry, DC. Well, there's got to be an equivalent in DC. Kodak.
Well, no, we're talking about Star Wars, Jonesy. Where have you gotten comic books?
Alex Jones.
Oh, wait.
Hold on.
Confused.
Are you on drugs right now?
No.
Maybe
Unfortunately
you should be,
not.
Yeah, maybe you should be. But yeah, anyway, as I was saying, we are available on YouTube. We're available on podcasting platforms of your choice where you get good podcasts. That's usually where you should find us. Let's be honest. We're also on some scummy podcast stations as well. I don't know, like Fleabag FM, just putting that out there. But something that is not scumbag, something that is top shelf, fellas. And they call it top shelf because that's where the expensive shit is. We are available on Paisley Radio. That's right, internet radio, paisleyradio.com, Thursdays, 10 p.m., repeats on Mondays, 10 p.m. And that's where you will find top shelf content like us.
I thought the top shelf was reserved for the stuff that was smutty and you didn't want people kids to see.
I don't know if this is a UK, South Africa thing, but here, top shelf was porn. Like that's where
right.
the magazines were. So
I'm thinking if we
alcohol and porn.
Yeah, because the alcohol is what I'm talking about. When you go to a bar and top shelf is reserved for all the expensive shit, it's the bottles that just have dust on them because no one can afford that shit.
Right.
But yeah, I mean,
in the UK, it was just alcohol in general and porn.
Yeah, I mean a little bit of smut never hurt anyone, right? Maybe.
I guess not. It is weird, but to think back in the olden days, they had to read big books just to whack off. How boring is that? Nowadays, I just use my telephone.
It wasn't necessarily a big book.
Yeah, magazines are big books with thin paper.
Yeah, but
that's just the way the world
fellas,
works.
even before magazines, what was it like Lady Chatterley's lover. You have to read a fucking novel to back off. Like, come on.
Well, yeah. I forget which one of you I was talking to. Was it Jonesy I was talking to about on the podcast? About if you go back far back enough, did they have to paint each other porn? Like, legitimately, they probably did.
They did, of course they did, yeah, before they had photographs, yeah. I think illustrations, wasn't it? It was like sexy illustrations were all the rave. They'd share around little
I reckon
drawings.
Like they'd see like a promiscuous looking vegetable and they just jack off to it. Like, I just think our ancestors were absolute fucking horn dogs.
I like the fact it's gone full circle because obviously it used to be drawings and now with hentai it's all going back to drawings again. So, you know.
Oh, I thought you were going to go one step further and say, like, well, Chris mentioned back in the olden days it used to just be an oddly shaped vegetable, and now we're just sharing emojis of oddly shaped vegetables. And that's all the kids nowadays need to whack off. I'm just going to say whack off as many times as possible this podcast.
Nice, I like it. If we weren't so lazy with editing, if we actually like did a lot of editing to our things, we'll probably put in a whack off counter with a little bit of a ding every time you whack off. Maybe a little bit
ding.
of a
whack off.
Maybe a little bit of a moan.
Well, hang on. Let's not go too far. We don't want to turn on the listeners of this product, or do we?
Let's do the Pornhub theme. Just that. I can never remember that bass lick.
Yeah.
There's no way you can't remember it. That's just like, oh, what was it again? Oh, does anyone here remember the Pornhub? Oh, I can't remember it.
I remember.
I know it to hear it, but I couldn't like hum it. I can't. I'm not that good at music. That's my problem.
It's got a little funky kind of.
It's like that. It's something like that. Yeah, it's something like that.
Do you guys done something like that? Come on.
Do you guys remember when at the end of ATG's lifespan, I said we should do a collaboration with a. Do you remember this? I think Jamie, you'll remember this probably.
I need to hear more of it before I do.
With Naughty America, that like every time we start a video, we just start off with the little Naughty America.
Oh. Were we going to do a version of it ourselves, like zoomed in on our lips? Because that would be disgusting.
Yeah, especially like after we've had like saucy lunches and stuff.
I was going to say I've still got my lunch between my front teeth half the time going into the early afternoon. So full-time gaming, nobody does it better. Turns out, not true. Lots of people did it better, and that's why we're here.
Yeah. Well, for the time being. But yeah, so. Fellas, this is, I guess we have to drop the news, the bombshell to the listeners, right? That we are no longer going to be around as a gaming podcast because we're going to be a smut podcast going forward. Yay!
The Smutcast. I like podcast.
I reckon there's a lot of money in that, but might be wrong.
Yeah, probably.
But I don't think three aging white dudes are the ones to do it. I think the women have got that on lockdown.
Yeah, true. I remember also like ATG days, like wondering, like I was just like ways of making money. It's like, let's just put our content on Pornhub. Let's just see what happens. It's
I've got a feeling not much would have happened.
Yeah. I have the same kind of feeling. But there we go. But
you know how people cut like they. You know, these like people they'll talk about gaming adjacent topics whilst they have random footage from games. We could have had our podcast set to random porn films just so as like make sure it was in the wheelhouse.
Yeah, it's like
us chatting about bullshit.
It's like how Leafy used to do all of his fucking like his shit, and then he was doing that like CS:GO surfing or whatever it was fucking called.
Yeah, but who wants that? Like
Jonesy,
I'll be watching a regular film,
apparently,
and if the male performer in a scene that I'm watching is even 5% more verbose than I'd like him to be, I'm out of there. Especially when they're from like Central Europe and it's just like, oh yeah. And I'm like, come on, brother. Like, we're in this together. Work with me here, not against me. Keep your fucking mouth shut. Unless something's going in it.
Mate, you're totally off. You're wrong on this one. I reckon there's someone out there who, just as they're about to climax, they want to hear you go, do you know what? Fuck any game that is basically Flappy Bird. And then they're done. They're over. They're spent. They've exploded all over there.
Push them over the edge. True. I mean, I get pushed over the edge with some of the things that Jamie says, but I got to try to keep it on lockdown. That's why sometimes it's worth watching the podcast on YouTube, because you can try and find the hints of, the moment of exceptionalism. Let's just put it that way. But fellas, hey, you know what? We haven't devolved into a smutcast just yet. We are a gaming podcast, okay? And as such, I feel obliged to talk about games. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you're probably in the right sort of area.
I'm not opposed to the idea, but I've heard.
Okay.
I did like the smut direction.
Okay.
That's all I'm going to say.
You could keep your mind in the gutter for this one, to a certain degree, I guess. But the first bit of news, fellas, is coming by way of CD Projekt Red. Okay, the infamous studio now, once celebrated, now maligned, but making a comeback in a way, and then making too many projects. On the podcast before, we've mentioned how they've got like fucking, I don't know, 10 games in development at the moment. But add another one to that, fellas, because they've decided that they are remaking the original Witcher game, which about 5 people played, in, of all things, Unreal Engine 5. So, fair enough. Now, the reason why this links to all of that smuttiness is because if they don't have that like collectible card game once you bone all the love interests in that game, then I think we riot, quite frankly.
Yeah. And we need it in like super high res Unreal Engine 5 detail as well. Like we need to, see the slight creases and folds and intricacies of every single card. Some of them might be foils and shinies, and you could do an LA Noire thing where you hold it in Geralt's hand and roll his wrist around, if you know what I mean.
Oh, yeah.
You can roll the cards in your fingers if you catch the drift.
And you could stack the cards up, and they might get stuck together with some kind of like some unnamed adhesive. But hey, let's try for realism. Why else would you remake the first Witcher? Do you guys think that this is a weird thing to do?
No. Do you know what? If there was ever a good idea to do a remake, it's a shit game that no one played that you can but now everyone's in love with the series. And you say, do you know what? Let's make that a good, decent game so people can play it before they play the new one. I'm on board with it. But it's going to be one where they have to change loads of it. And otherwise no one's going to like it again. So it's going to be tricky because there'll be people that say, oh, you haven't stayed true to the original. But those 5 people won't be a big enough voice to shout down the majority who want it to feel like Witcher 3.
I kind of feel like, Jamie, you've got a differing opinion here.
The thing is, I agree with Jonesy on the difficulties, but I think they make me err towards the side of this is a very unusual project to take on board. Because on the one hand, Jonesy's absolutely right. Like the act of actually remaking The Witcher 1 is really difficult because you're going to have, as much as we joke about them being 5, there's probably more like, in the hundreds of thousands, maybe even low millions. I don't even fucking know. Piracy is a thing nowadays of people who have played and appreciate The Witcher for what it is for what it was, and want some kind of semblance of that to be kept in the remake. But then Josie's absolutely right that the most accessible way of remaking a game like that for a mass market audience is to go further in the direction of The Witcher 3, which was, made not just with consoles in mind, but launched across all consoles and PC at the same time, which was a first for the series at the time, as crazy as that is to think. And I don't know which audience you try and satisfy, and I don't know who ends up, which crowd ends up shouting loudest in that situation. I also just think, other series and franchises have ended up in this space before, but it's just a weird thing in terms of the chronology. Is that the right word to use in this context? I don't know.
Sure, yeah.
In terms of, let's say you are trying to onboard fans into The Witcher, so they're playing a really up-to-date version of The Witcher 1 on Unreal Engine 5. They then have little to no way to play The Witcher 2. They can, let's say they
crack out the Xbox 360. Yeah,
right, exactly. And then let's say they're a PS5. They can then, I guess, hopefully by that point, play the next-gen patched version of the originally PS4 game, The Witcher 3. And then, what are they being prepared for? Like another trilogy that is like is a spiritual successor to the Witcher trilogy? Like, there's stuff here that doesn't make sense in terms of, I don't think there's any real thread here in terms of onboarding players or preparing players for the future. I just think it makes sense to put a product out to say, like, hey, this is Geralt in terms of like video game Geralt's first ever adventure. See it like you've never seen it before. And I think that's basically all there is to it.
Okay, but is there... See, I'm in two minds about it, fellas, because I do agree with your points. And I think that, the way to do it, to bring it up to a modern audience is with modern sensibilities. But then, is that effectively them just taking the story of the original Witcher, but then just having the gameplay of The Witcher 3. And if that is the case, then surely that's not necessarily in keeping with the spirit of doing something like that, right? Like it's more like a transplant than its own kind of like iterative thing. But I think I may be getting the wrong end of the stick here, because while CD Projekt Red is making it, they're also not making it. They are handing over duties to a Polish studio called Fool's Theory, where veteran Witcher series staff are involved. So, and I was wrong in my opening of this. It wasn't another title to be added to the amount that CD Projekt Red announced, was it a month ago now? It is actually confirmed to be the game that was announced as a Canis Majoris, or at least teased as Canis Majoris in the previous kind of reveal. So, first of all, I don't know about you guys, but I'd maybe have cold feet about handing over, a remake duty to a company called Fool's Theory, perhaps. Not the strongest start to a project that hasn't even taken off the ground yet. That's just me.
No.
Just
In fact,
saying.
I think the only weaker start a remake can have is handing it off to a team called Bloober Team. Am I right?
By the way, just to chime in on what you guys were saying last week about Bloober Team, I was with you. Like, for all intents and purposes, to me, I was like, yeah, Bloober Team, they're fine. Like, not exceptional, but like they make decent horror games that, I can play because they're not that scary, I guess. And yeah, they fuck around with things. But then I started delving into that like rabbit hole of like, why are people pissed off with Bloober Team? I don't get it. And yeah, it seems like there's a lot of kind of like fair criticism, I guess. But anyway, weird. I just wanted to kind of like chime in on that. But yeah, are you guys? Would you be excited? I mean, you both played, enjoyed The Witcher 3. Is this something that you guys would want?
Well, personally, I wouldn't mind jumping into an earlier iteration of that game, but with like Unreal Engine 5 graphics and stuff, but I mean, Jamie did say, it made a good point in that it's kind of a weird prospect, unless they're going to do Witcher 2 as well and sort of like give you that so that you can play all three of those games in that trilogy.
I'd imagine that's the way. Like, as soon as I heard this,
they're going to have to, right?
Yeah, as soon as I heard this, I just thought, like, in a way, I feel like Capcom would have opened up the floodgates for something like this, right? Where they very successfully remake, maybe not the original Resident Evil, but Resi 2, and then, hey, Resi 3, and now they're doing Resi 4, and it's getting a lot of cash, and then all of a sudden, everyone with the fucking trilogy in their belt kind of look at it and say, I wonder, we've done half the work already, let's just fucking... It's a way almost for companies to print money, as long as it's a beloved series and they know that they've got buy-in from fans.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost ironic with Witcher because obviously it's not a beloved series in that sense. It's like a beloved game. And then because everyone jumped into Witcher 3, it seems.
And like the pessimist or like the more negative kind of voice inside me looks at what Jonesy's just said and cross-references it with this announcement. It's like, this is suits or bigwigs looking at money on the table and saying, hey, this is a franchise or a series that's bigger than it's ever been. That means we can go back and essentially like rework old material into new money, as it turns out.
Nintendo.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong.
I mean, but yeah, everyone does it, and yeah, like. And the funny thing is, when studios don't do it enough, as we weirdly ran into with Konami last week, people get angry at that as well. So you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. I think for me, and a lot of this is also going to have to come down to timing. I need to know what that core Witcher trilogy that CD Projekt Red is still working on actually, evolves into, and how much DNA it shares with the trilogy that we've had so far, and whether it is a sort of a pretty direct continuation, and if so, like, does this kind of fit into that in some way? And also just timing. Like, if this is a thing where I don't want to, jump the gun, but if this thing's ready, maybe not next year, but the year after, whereas the next fully, developed in-house CD Projekt Red Witcher game is like 2 years after that, then okay, cool. We get a one-off standalone Witcher story that I've never played before to fill the gap, and I'm not going to say no to that.
Yeah. And I guess that's a good point, right? Like, in terms of the scope of these games, obviously Witcher 1 is smaller in scope than anything that they've got in the pipeline. So it could be a case of like, we can develop this and this can be the stopgap while we just fucking wait to finish like the world's biggest fucking games. Yeah, that makes sense.
Stopgap gaming.
Stopgap.
I just played like 3-4 hours of The Last of Us Part 1 today. Like, that was a stopgap. That was like a bunch of people at Naughty Dog didn't have anything to do while Neil Druckmann was writing up the script. So like, let's do this, I guess.
Yeah, true. Okay. Well, fellas, the Witcher train doesn't stop at that station. Okay. It goes a little bit further because we got some sad news indeed. And not from the gaming perspective of The Witcher, but the Netflix series of Witcher stuff, because Henry Cavill has announced that he is stepping down from his role as Geralt of Rivia following the end of season 3. He did confirm a season 4, but that Australian actor, heartthrob, hunk, slab of meat, Liam Hemsworth will be taking over the role.
Can we refer to him as not Chris Hemsworth?
I mean, yeah, effectively, right? Like one of the Hemsies.
I'm torn on this one. I'm torn, right? Because when I heard Henry Cavill was going to be Geralt, I was like, the terrible casting, that's going to be awful. He was brilliant. He is so good as Geralt. And I'm really hopeful that this is going to be the same case. But on the other hand, this is not Chris Hemsworth. And I don't think, the limited stuff I've seen him in, I'm not blown away. And as far as I can tell, he's blonde, and that's how he's got the role.
Well, yeah, I'm dubious about it myself. I think like, while I found the Witcher series to be fine and entertaining, what really kind of elevated it was Henry Cavill's involvement. Not just like creatively, but like acting in it. And I think like, if I look back at those 2 seasons and you remove Henry Cavill from it, I don't know if I like it. Like, just being honest. Yeah, I'm just being honest.
I really liked the first season. I thought the first season was, as someone who like really enjoyed The Witcher 3, I thought the first season was like solid, fit well in with that game. And then season 2 was still enjoyable, but it was far more into like the politics of the world. And I wasn't quite as into it as much, but it was still good. I still enjoyed it. So I'm looking forward to season 3. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see how season 3 goes and then reflect on how season 4 is going to look.
Yeah, sorry, Chris.
No, go ahead, Jerry.
I was going to say it's especially interesting for me because I have never seen a single episode of The Witcher.
You haven't? Oh, wow.
No,
okay.
No, I've never seen it. And so, do you know where I'm at with it? I'm still at where most people were when those first ever screenshots came out, or those first images came out of Henry Cavill in the full outfit and with the hair, and thought, that doesn't look right. That looks like that guy who's Superman wearing a weird white wig. Like, I don't believe this at all. And as someone who, outside of a few clips here or there, has never seen like even like an uncut minute of him, embodying that character or delivering dialogue or acting cool or even just staring menacingly down the barrel of the lens, which I gather he probably does. I would imagine there's a lot of brooding looks and piercing yellow eyes. So when I hear this, I'm like, oh, they're swapping one generic action star that I didn't buy as the role for another generic action star who I still also don't buy as the role. And I gather the thing that I'll acknowledge is I gather that my early thoughts and like preconceptions about Henry Cavill's capacity to fill those boots were wrong, and that as Chris just attested to, it's one of the most uniquely positive things about the show so far, and so that's great. But it is funny for me. It's like, oh, I didn't think Henry Cavill would be any good, and I was wrong, so maybe I'm wrong again. Yeah, I think the thing that Henry Cavill had going for him, and this is good for winning internet points, which then lends itself to positive discussions around the show and his involvement in the show, is that he clearly was a legitimate fan of that world and of that character and of the games. And I think he kind of, over the course of his journey with The Witcher and as Geralt, spent more and more time getting more and more invested in where that show went and how it handled, those characters and those stories. I don't think that's a level of expectation you can set for every actor that comes into a role. And I also honestly don't know how much it has a positive or negative impact on, say, Liam Hemsworth's capacity to do the job. But yeah, I will just say, as someone who's never seen, Henry Cavill in his element, it is funny. It's like, yeah, that white guy. I know him.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I think the one thing that maybe Liam Hemsworth has going for it is he's not as hench as Henry Cavill. I do think that Henry Cavill as Geralt was maybe too muscular. He's just a stocky dude, right?
Can I make another thing? Like, this is maybe going to sound a little bit like fucking like, why is Jamie saying this? But I'm just going to say it anyway. Henry Cavill's one of those dudes who, a bit like we've had this discussion about The Rock before, he's so big and he's so built that there's almost like a sterile quality to him that I know is weirdly appropriate for Geralt as a character, but it's like, I can't imagine Henry Cavill being romantic. And while witches, by their nature, aren't necessarily emotional people, Geralt likes fucking. Like, Geralt likes to swing it about when he gets the opportunity to. And I don't imagine Henry Cavill, because every interaction I've ever seen Henry Cavill having with a woman is very like, oh, yes, quite. There's clips all over the internet of like people like Amy Adams like throwing themselves all over him, and he's like, oh yeah, Henry Cavill, I built a PC once. Have you seen it? Whereas like Liam Hemsworth, I think Liam Hemsworth would dick down a fucking hooker in the same way that Geralt probably does at the end of every adventure.
Fair.
So
that's fair.
I'll give him props in that. I think Liam Hemsworth is more of a. And again, I was going to use the word romantic, and I acknowledge that Geralt isn't by nature is romantic. But again, I'll say it again. Geralt loves dicking down birds.
And you're saying Liam is a dicksmith.
More so than Henry Cavill. Yeah. Like, if you told me Henry Cavill was a virgin, I would believe you. I know that's crazy, but I would believe you.
I don't know, dude. I think Henry Cavill fucking just breaks women in half.
I think he can have whoever he wants, and I think people throw themselves at him incessantly. But at the same time, if you told me,
he just doesn't portray that. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, he's like one of those like asexual, metrosexual dudes who's like, yeah, I don't fuck. I look like
I know exactly. It was funny. I know exactly what you mean. He seems like he's like a big nerd in a big tough man's body, but he's still very much of the. When you see him in interviews and that, he's a bit nerdy. He's like a bit of an English gent. He reminds me a little bit in that sense of like Tom Holland. Whereas Tom Holland seems like a nerdy little boy. Like Henry Cavill seems like a geek who you're like, how does he get women? And then you look at him and you're like, okay, he's a good looking lad and he's hench. Cool. But I will say in the series, he kind of has a bit of Geralt's energy when it comes to like the women's situation. Because whereas I can imagine Liam Hemsworth like smarmily sliding up to a woman at a bar and like chatting her up, I think Henry Cavill's Geralt is much more of like a Tris. Take off your pants and lie on the bed. Like he's one of those. It is what it is. He's there. He's a witcher, Jamie. He's got a job to do. And if his job's fucking or killing monsters, he's going to do both with the same look on his face.
He's definitely a dom. He's definitely a dom.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's going to rub some ointment on his weapon no matter what the situation, and he's going to go to town.
God.
There we go.
Very nice.
Good. Yeah, very good. Very good. Yep.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Okay, cool. I mean,
what started as a conversation about
duration.
The casting of The Witcher turned into three men discussing which actor fucks more.
Hey, this guy sucks.
I mean, Liam Hemsworth is a crazy enough motherfucker that he went back to Miley Cyrus after she went crazy. Like, she started getting her tits out and he went, I'm all for it. I'm back in.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't?
I mean, I wouldn't.
No,
am I kidding? I'm all over it. I'm all about it.
Well, other people who are all over it and all about it are our patrons. Segue. That's, anyway. Head on over to patreon.com/SuperShow. Patreon.com/SuperShow. Sorry, I just got to re-educate myself just a little bit on how to talk in sentences and structures. But yes, great. Thank you. For as little as $2, you get access to our Discord server. There are some additional things if you want to pledge a little bit more money that are there waiting for you, such as what? Hold on. Oh, my phone's just shut down, and my headphones just said Pixel 5 disconnected. So I got confused. I do apologize. Ooh, there we go. But yeah, we've got some Let's Plays. We've got some behind the scenes. We've got some Patreon exclusive podcasts. So head on over to patreon.com/SuperShow and show your support, much like these fine people whose names you can see on screen right now. And I do, fellas, have some names to verbally praise for the good job that they're doing in helping keep the Super Show dream alive. I am, of course, talking about Aaron Cameron, Athletic Gravy, Bill Caesar, Brimstone, Cole K, Crow's Perch, I Snort Rock Salt, Jesper Camdal Nielsen, Leo Merger, Mindful Pig, Mr. Anthropic, Pastors Guild, and the big boys, Brett Z, aka Shellshock, Doppler, Geometric Potter, Hacksaw Book Read, Manuel Guerrero, and Peaswad. Thank you to each and every one of you. Week in, week out, you are our guardian angels, our patron saints, as it were. So thank you from the bottom of our heart. And cheers to that one. Just going to sip some
Thank you,
tea
guys.
now.
Appreciate it.
Thank you all so much. I'm doing one of the round of applauses that people do in our calls at work whenever someone achieves something good. That people do this and they put their hands. I'm making a circle for anyone listening to the audio version of this show.
Do you know what? I don't mind the round of applause joke, but that knowing that you do it on your team calls as like a regular thing,
as like
rubs me up the
feature.
wrong way.
Yeah, feature.
Jonesy, how else would you congratulate someone for their woo of the week every Friday? We got
woo of the week.
Yeah, it sounds a bit more smutty than it actually is, but it's just like someone on our team did something great this week, so let's celebrate them. It's nice.
It's not that they've wooed someone that week.
No, again, it sounds like
So it literally sounds like my son's like reception class where they get stars for like you. Oh, well done! You got a star because you listened really well in class today.
Well, it turns out, Chris, from 4 to 14 to 14, not much changes in the dynamics of team building and keeping people together and keeping groups motivated and engaged. At least not in the techniques they tried to use. Yeah, I'd love more stars, personally.
Yeah.
And demerits.
Demerits.
When I first heard the word demerit, I didn't know it was a word, and so I thought it was just Jack Black being racist.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Was that from School of Rock?
Yeah, because he's looking at the board and people have been awarded gold stars and black circles, and he goes, "What are these little circles here?" And a black kid in the class goes, "Demerits." And Jack Black goes, "Well, while I'm here, there will be no gold stars and no demerits." Okay, and I didn't know that demerit was a word. I thought the word was merit. So I thought the black kid was saying demerits, like they are merits, and Jack Black was going demerits to like copy him. And I was like, "Oh, that's a bit racist." That's AAVE abuse. Was it African?
No, but there are merits and demerits, though, aren't they? Because a merit is like a good thing, and a demerit is like a bad thing.
I'm saying I didn't know that, so that's why I misunderstood the nature of the conversation, and I thought Jack Black was mocking a black child's accent because he was going demerits, like the way Ice Cube kind of would. Demerits.
But you see, he can't because he's got black in the name, so. You know,
does that give him a pass?
Maybe. I mean, I don't have it in my name, so I can't say. You
are African.
Right. But you know what I can say, fellas, is the games that I've been playing in my absence. Just very quickly run through them because there's nothing too interesting here. But I've kind of gotten on a bit of an indie kick lately. But I'm also kind of too stingy to buy new indie games, so I've just been playing some back catalog stuff. Loop Hero being one of them, still enjoyable, and Vampire Survivors as it's hit version 1.0. And I can tell you that version 1.0 is not much changed from, I don't know what the fucking previous one was, version 0.79. Just like maybe an extra item or something. Still a fun game, but I think I got to take it around the back of the shed and shoot in the face with a shotgun at this stage.
You reckon?
Yeah.
I played it a couple of times this week, and I'm like, okay, I can still use this to kill half an hour.
Yeah, it all started, funnily enough, because I saw and read some previews and not previews, just reviews of a game called Dome Keeper, which sounds right up my alley. Where like you've got this, you crash land on a planet, you've got this dome, and then creatures periodically come and attack the dome. But then you go and you dig underneath your dome to get resources to level up your dome and the defenses, etc. And this nice little kind of like interplay. I wanted to play that, but then I just couldn't be asked. So I just did Loop Hero. I did Vampire Survivors. And then I played one game of Dota because the International has just been running, and I just got the Dota itch again. Got absolutely trounced. Haven't played in 9 months, and probably going to wait another 9 months to play. But besides that, fellas, I want to say as well, a little bit of a catch-up on a previous catch-up of my own, which was I finally finished watching Everything Everywhere All at Once. Now, if you recall, was it like a month or so ago? I was watching Everything Everywhere All at Once because it came out on Amazon Prime. And I had to stop halfway through and go back the next day to watch it. And the next day, it said, oh, yeah.
It was gone.
No, it was there, but you had to pay for it. And I was like...
So, yes, I mean, it was gone from like Prime Street. Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not going to fucking stand for this. I'm not going to buy this. I'm not going to pay money just to watch half a film. I'm like, I'll find alternative ways of watching this. And I didn't, okay? And I just put it off. But then last night I had a brainwave. I said, let me try and log in to my Amazon Prime account as a different user and just search it again. And lo and behold, it fucking worked. And so I don't know what went on.
It never came off, did it? It was on there the whole time, I guarantee.
No. Even
so it was just Chris being an idiot.
No, there's no shot that film was on Amazon Prime for a week. They then took it off for a month and then put it back on.
There's something even stranger. Okay, so last night I logged into my account, okay, my profile on Prime, and Everything Everywhere All at Once, buy or rent. I was like, fucking hell. Went to a different profile, okay, different user profile, searched the thing, and it was there and it was free. So we finished watching it last night. Okay, great film, really enjoyed it.
I've got it, and I've just checked. It is on Prime for me. Everything Everywhere Always All at Once.
Yes. So after I watched,
I think Jamie's right.
No. Listen. Just fucking. Could you just wait, you arsehole?
Get to the point.
I'm trying to, but Mr. Jones there is interrupting me. So I went back to my profile after I watched the film, and I'm like, I don't understand what the fuck's going on here. And I searched for it, inputs it in the search function, and when you search Everything Everywhere All at Once, 2 entries come up for this fucking film. One of them is free and one of them is buy or rent. So I don't know what the fuck they're doing and how they fucking programmed or whatever it is. But when we watched it and we paused it, and it obviously has like, you know, when you go away from something, you come back, it's like, oh, pick up from where you left off. And it's there on the user interface. It was there, but it said buy now or rent. So it's fucking...
So Prime's interface is not very good. When you're like in a series and you're trying to catch up and you're trying to find the last episode you watched, it's so messy to try and get back to
that's the most long-winded explanation for just, Prime Video's UI is a bit weird I've ever heard.
I'm just saying, you know, you say that, but
it's better than that, Jamie. Because it took him 2 months to find his way through the UI to get the...
I've got another question with the piggybacks on the 2-month gap. Did you start from the beginning?
No.
How? Okay.
Oh, I think I would have started.
I would have had 2 months from the beginning.
No, you see, when it comes to films and
one of the
TV
best
shows,
reviewed films of the year as well.
It's all in here. No, it's all in here. All I did was went back maybe 5 minutes in the film just to kind of get that velocity back into it, you know.
Right.
But yeah,
you probably watched it on 2 times speed as well, you scumbag.
No, I didn't. To be fair, I didn't. No. I don't even know if you can on Prime. But yeah, that's me, fellas. What about who's gonna bring up the first catch up?
I'll go because I can keep it quick, and Jonesy's got far more interesting things to catch up.
Oh
about.
Yeah.
I'll just say that following last week's chat about the campaign, the Modern Warfare 2 multiplayer has now, well, not just multiplayer, the entire game has been released. Yeah. So been playing some of that, been getting my shit pushed in more than I ever have done on any Call of Duty, perhaps ever. I don't know if that means anything to anyone, but that's just, I'm speaking my truth. And the other thing I played a little bit of, because I just feel like I have this weird draw, or like a weird need sometimes to check out every weird free-to-play app that comes out as an extension of a known or familiar franchise. Like I did it with Gears Pop and all that kind of stuff. I've been playing some Marvel Snap.
Okay.
And speaking of The Witcher, this is just, what's it called?
Gwent.
Yeah, Gwent. Marvel Snap is Gwent. It turns out, except with Marvel characters. And And do you know what? I will just say for anyone worried about it, it doesn't seem particularly insidious in its monetization or its pricing or anything weird like that. Because fundamentally, the only thing you need is cards, and they don't sell the cards, so they only sell cosmetics. So if anyone wants a card battler, then that's really similar to Gwent and easy to pick up and play, there's Marvel Snap, I guess.
But are you enjoying it?
I mean, it's become the thing that my thumb moves towards when I pick up my phone aimlessly, which, I think is pretty high praise, right? I don't know. I doubt it's going to stick with me. As my experience has been with lots of these types of games, I'm just kind of fascinated to see what's being done with these licenses and how they're being handled, and whether or not they're absolute abhorrent abominations. I do it sometimes too, like, when you're on Instagram or something and you get an advert for it's like, oh, you're moving forward down a lane, and if you run through this barrier, there are 10 soldiers, and if you run through this barrier, you get...
I love those.
Yeah.
And every now and then I'm like, is this app real? And so I type it into the App Store, and I'll download, like, the top 6 results, and I'll play... and, like, turns out those games do exist. They're all just really weird.
So I found out something really fascinating about this recently, is those ads that you see. Because, there's that one where it's like, a guy that's standing there, and there's treasure, and there's a monster, and there's lava,
and water.
And you pull the little thing, the pins, and then depending on which order you pin them, you like fuck yourself over, or you get the treasure.
And you now see trailers for those games going, this is the actual game that you've seen in the little adverts with the man. So many of those games
the reason because of that is because I found there was an article I was reading. I don't remember where it was from, but there was an article that was saying those ads are for games that don't exist per se. Okay? And if you go and download that game, it's not actually the game of what you're doing. But what they're doing is they're using it as a proof of concept for a future game that they may want to develop. And they're gauging interest through social media, but then tacking it onto like a similar-ish game, but not really.
That's so weird and ironic, though, because then it puts you off clicking on the advert in the future, thinking, this game isn't real. So even when they do actually make the game and release it.
Legitimately, fellas, on Twitter, whenever I see those things, I love just reading the comments on those like promoted tweets. Honestly, do yourself a favor. They are so funny. Like these companies get ripped into, but they don't care. Because ultimately, you see the video, you're like, yeah, that looks like a little bit of fun as the mobile game, and I'll just log into it and let's try it out.
Yeah. The one of the ones that I downloaded, Chris, was one of those, pull the bars out the way, the lava drops onto and the way it worked is it was essentially a Clash of Clans inspired like town builder and town management thing, where every now and then you went out on these expeditions, and that was like the mini game for the expedition. And they were all completely rotten with ads. Yeah. It's not even the microtransactions. It's almost like they don't want people to spend 79p with their time in the game. They want them to watch 5 ads because they almost like they know that's more attainable. Because
kids will do that.
My kids are awful for like playing those games, and then when the ads come on, they're like, "Oh yeah, I want to play this game," and then they'll tap it, and they're like, and I'm like, "Stop touching the ads! You can't. That's not a game. It's not a real game. You're not going to get to play it." Yeah. But then I think, what's the point? Like, they haven't got any money. They can't actually put any money through anything. I don't know why these ads exist.
Mate, the point is that all the malware that your mobile device is now infested with like...
Not mine, my wife's. It's all good.
Fine, fair enough. But Jamie, going back to your Modern Warfare 2 extravaganza, shall we say, you're playing on PlayStation, aren't you?
I am playing on PlayStation, yes.
Okay. That's interesting. Because if you had said you were playing on PC, then I'd say maybe there was a bit of an issue, because there was some news saying that Modern Warfare 2's multiplayer has the toggle for crossplay disabled on all platforms except for PlayStation. So if you're playing on Xbox, as an example, you cannot say that you don't want to play crossplay. You're just kind of like, well, you fucked because you just have to, which is a really kind of like bizarre omission.
Yeah, and I'm not really sure like what they stand to gain from having it on one platform and not on the others. I doubt it's at least unless it could be indicative of the fact that the PlayStation player base is the only one large enough to be entirely sustainable with no crossplay. but that sounds unlikely for something that sells as well as Call of Duty.
It just sounds like an oversight to me than anything else, right?
I mean, hey, it wouldn't be the only oversight in that game right now. I'll put it that way.
What?
Yeah.
Could it be to do with licensing? Because like PlayStation obviously is its own ecosystem, but then with Microsoft, they want Xbox and PC get players to be able to play against each other. Could it be something to do with licensing where Microsoft have said
it could be, but it's not. But it's not fair, right? Because then you're pitting controller players versus mouse and keyboard players. It's just
Plus,
there
like,
is an inherent handicap there.
Yeah, plus like the ecosystem thing on the PC side is spread because this is the first, like now Call of Duty's on everything. Like it's all fully on Steam now, and it's not just Battle.net, and obviously their deal that might see it show up on like the Microsoft Store and Game Pass in the future is still a long way from bearing any fruit in that regard. It's a weird one.
What are the other oversights, Jamie? I like rip into it, man. I fucking live for this stuff.
Do you know what? I don't even have that much to rip into it. Like, I think people at this stage can kind of admit, no matter where they are in the process, that there is something of a cycle to Call of Duty, which is a new one comes out, you get upset, you point out all its flaws, the map design, and it has a benefits campers, and the kind of the visual recoil and the way they've tried to adhere to some sense of realism in the way the guns fire lends itself to kind of like lots of gunfights being obscured in the way that in terms of the visibility of your opponents during them. The kind of things people always usually complain about, various balancing, spawns, little things like skill-based matchmaking is often a big conversation amongst some hardcore players. Another thing, for example, is bunny hopping kind of got nerfed between the beta and now, which is also a big deal again amongst hardcore players. Accusations of them catering towards sort of the lowest skilled or the most sort of like casual of players, which then negatively impacts the most hardcore players, and the most hardcore players are the ones that are most vocal about it on social media. So you end up in these really weird sort of cycles of, here's a game that sells millions of copies and millions of people are happy about it, but all you ever hear are the 100 or so loudest people who are the least happy about it. And it just ends up being a bit of a cacophony of fuck-ery and mess.
A cacophony of fuck. I like it.
Yeah. And as someone who's kind of between, like, in the exact middle of all of those things, like the exact middle of casual and hardcore and the exact middle of caring about SBMM and bunny hopping and so on and so forth, but also does have issues with some of the maps and whether they lend themselves to camping and various strategies that may be more viable than others. I'm just kind of playing it, and it's like, it's another Call of Duty game. And that's all it was ever going to be for me. I think the campaign is solid. We talked about that last week. I think this multiplayer will be fine. They better hope it is, because this is the first time in the modern era of Call of Duty they're banking on a multiplayer lasting 2 years. So, they got to pull their finger out quickly if they do want to get things spot on. But it's just, it's COD, man.
And I know you're counting down the time until December. What should we say? December 26th, right?
Oh yeah. When the newbies come on, the Christmas newbies. Then when Alex Jones wakes up on Boxing Day and says, "I'm going to put my Modern Warfare 2 disc," because I'm a disc boy and I got a physical copy for Christmas, and I took all the wrapping off and I'm putting it. There was literally a tweet I saw earlier today, and it was the video component of the tweet was a compilation of Conor McGregor's backstage Vince McMahon walking, wearing his tightly fitted suits and sunglasses, he's mean mugging, he's doing the walk. And the text of it was like, me logging into Modern Warfare 2 to absolutely destroy some plumber who's just worked his ass off on his 9 to 5 and is logging in to relax. And like sometimes that is what it feels like as a fucking no-life 29-year-old man-child who still buys and plays hundreds of hours of Call of Duty every year. And then,
you're never going to get anywhere near me though, because I'm not touching that multiplayer with a bloody 10-foot barge pole.
You will. Come on.
No, I never play the multiplayer. No, I never play the multiplayer. I always play the campaign and I play Warzone, and then I don't go anywhere near the multiplayer.
Yeah, I'm with you, Jonesy. I'm with you, Jonesy.
There's no point.
There are co-op missions this year. I haven't tried them yet, but if you and a buddy want to saddle up for some co-op, there's that.
Just remind me, what is the plan with Warzone? When's it launching? Warzone 2?
Warzone launches, I think, in about 3 weeks, kind of mid-November.
I'll be honest with you. I've got a big itch to jump back into some Warzone for God knows whatever reason.
I mean,
Sucker for
it's gonna be
punishment, I
interesting.
guess. But yeah.
Well, you say that, but like all signs point to this version of Warzone being very different. The map and how it's designed seems very different. Like the gameplay structure, the gameplay fundamentals, things that some people didn't like because they were a departure from battle royale norms, but became the Warzone trademark, like loadouts. They're gone. Like you won't have me shouting at you every match, being like, "No, you have to get overkill first, ghost second," because it would just be like more like PUBG, I guess. Like pick up your guns, get your attachments in check, and go out and kill people. So it's going to be interesting to see how it does.
Yeah, interesting.
And I'm looking forward to seeing them not fuck up a new map.
Or waiting to see how long it takes for them to actually fuck it up.
Yeah, we'll see. Hopefully not before DMZ.
Yeah. All right. And Josie, what have you been tinkering with, playing with in your time between the previous podcast and now?
Do you know what? I was torn last podcast because Gotham Knights was coming out, and I'd ummed and ahed about whether I was going to get it leading up to its release, because we'd seen some kind of questionable stuff. We'd seen some more positive, I think, trailers and things released come out just before it dropped. And then the reviews came out, and they were terrible.
Yeah, they didn't hold back, right?
A lot of them. No, a lot of them. A lot of the places that I like to frequent for reviews really didn't hold back. They were pretty damning on how bad Gotham Knights was. But then I was saying to Jamie before the podcast, I then happened to see a couple of reviews that were sort of came from a different angle. So I thought, hey, let me jump into some Gotham Knights. So as of now, I'm about halfway through, I think. I'm like 12 hours through Gotham Knights at the moment.
Decent.
And I've got to say,
it's a big chunk of time, Jonesy.
It is. And it's been really interesting, because if you read the reviews and you see what a lot of people have been saying about this game, I would say that my experience of it so far don't fit that well with what I've read in the most critical of the reviews. It's a hard one to sort of sum up without talking about Arkham, as you'd probably expect. In the first instance, I'm quite impressed with the storytelling aspect, with how they've set up the story, the way that they frame like the death of Batman, and how they get the story on the go. That's actually, a lot of it is actually quite interesting when it comes to DC kind of comic book fare, and I've been really into that side of it. I'm surprisingly so. The whole story is effectively set up where Batman dies before you even play the game, and then you're then trying to track down the last case that he was investigating, and try and figure out how he got himself killed, basically. And in so doing, you then stumble upon Freeze, Harley Quinn, Clayface, and a couple of other well-known characters from the DC universe.
Yeah.
And it's pretty solid. Like, I'm not gonna lie. There've been some nice little set pieces where I was genuinely surprised at how good it was and how enjoyable it was. There's a sort of section where you chase Clayface down the Gotham streets on your bat cycle, and it's like this amorphous blob, like going down the road, smashing cars and throwing bits of pavement up, and it was completely serviceable and was enjoyable and was a nice set piece. Jamie's laughing.
I would implore you to tell me more about how serviceable your £70 video game was.
Well, it wasn't 70 quid at all. I think I got it for 55.
Oh, bargain.
You can get it for, I think you could get it for 45 from Amazon as well. I think it was. Was it Amazon? I think it was Amazon.
Yeah.
It's a difficult one. I've enjoyed my time with it, which is why I'm still playing it. I'm not playing it because I want to like see how bad it gets. Like, I genuinely have just been enjoying it, and it's one that's really easy to jump in and jump out.
It is £50 on Amazon right now. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a weird one, because obviously it is going to feel like Arkham because it looks like Arkham, but it is not an Arkham game. A lot of the ideas that Arkham had around that I actually found kind of frustrating, like where Batman was supposed to be this invisible fear character who you would never get. Well, the idea was that you wouldn't really get in a toe-to-toe fight with people when you didn't have to. You would use like all your gadgets, and you would construct this playhouse where you would make people blow up from one side and then trip mine over another thing, and you disappear into the floor. Like, this isn't that. This is, for most interactions, you can take out a few people silently, and then you jump down and you have a brawl. and you're just like going toe to toe with people. And each of the 4 characters actually feel very different as well. And you can sort of, they're not just reskins of each other with like slightly different weapons. They do feel different. They do feel weighty in different ways. Red Hood's like use of his weapons, his guns, his focus, and some of the others obviously have different, their different distances of combat and stuff that they preference. And it's quite fun. In the whole, it is quite fun. It does have some issues. In the whole. It does have some issues that I think are the reasons people are sort of saying that it's not. I think the things that have rubbed people up the wrong way, in that it doesn't really push the boat. It doesn't sort of push any boundaries. It doesn't do anything amazing and spectacularly in the sense of world design, in the sense of how you interact with the world. There's a lot of repetition. In the where you're going and doing these premeditated crime settings, like there's be people in a house that you've got to go and beat up to stop them planning a robbery they're going to do, for example, and you'll do 3 or 4 of those, and then you'll be like, oh, this seems really familiar, and they'll you then have sort of the different factions as you'd expect. So you have like the mob guys or the freaks or the regulator guys, and who all have different sort of like, maybe the regulators have like electricity elemental attacks, the mob have like machine guns, and then the freaks have like baseball bats and like riot shields and stuff. And that stuff's all fine. It's all very video game. It's all very like, these guys are different but similar. These guys are different but similar. There's a lot of that, as you can imagine.
From what it sounds like, there's a lot of, this is fine. It's like a grudge. It's like a fucking, what's it called? Like a grudge fuck, right? Like,
no, a little bit. A little bit, but then when you get to the sections where you actually go and battle, so there's a section where you go into Blackgate Prison and Harley Quinn's in there, and she doesn't know Batman's dead, and she's like, "You've got to come down here, Bats, and come and get this, do this thing for me." And there's actually a nice little section there where you go in, it's completely different, and then you're fighting inmates, and she's this crazy, she's Harley Quinn, she's absolutely mental, and she's getting you to chase some inflatable pig balloon through the prison while she sets off a riot, and it's all like really, so there's some really nice little touches. So the fight, like the battle of Clayface as he's trying to get through the city, where you go to Blackgate Prison, you got to fight, or Freeze goes and sort of steals a load of stuff from this cryogenics lab. They've put some really good little set pieces into it, and to mix it up. I think my issue with it so far, like halfway through, is there's not enough of that to balance out the drudgery of the open world and how kind of it's a bit dull.
Am I to glean from the way you're sort of like praising some of these, say, story missions and these moments and these set pieces that seem to largely still involve the game's traversal in the case of the Clayface chase, or the game's combat in the case of the Harley Quinn sequence, that you think the traversal and the combat are good?
The combat, no. Like so the traversal is... it's hard. It's hard to even like put it together. So I didn't particularly enjoy the car sections of Arkham Knight. I didn't think they were particularly great. The driving mechanics around that weren't great, but it was a way of getting around the city, which was fine. They've done a similar thing to this in that you've got the Bat Cycle, which is actually more fun, I would say, than the car. It's insofar as, not more fun, it's more in the sense of like it's more serviceable insofar as it does what it needs to do. It gets you from A to B. It's really easy to implement. It's effectively like you've got a cloaked motorbike that no matter where you are, you push up on the D-pad and it just appears on the road next to you.
Yeah. Plus, because it goes at 10 miles an hour, there's no chance of you ever missing a turn.
It is so fucking slow. But they've added like speed lines. So when you're driving, it's like you're going really fast and you're like, but I'm not. I'm barely moving. But to be fair, I think the Bat Cycle is more of I've got to get from A to B before I've unlocked all the fast travel points, because as soon as you've unlocked the fast travel points, it's basically redundant. And next, I saw a lot of criticism of people saying that you can't unlock the secondary traversal mechanics for each character until you've done 10 premeditated missions, and a lot of reviewers were going, this is outrageous. It takes so long to get through that just to get the traversal.
Stuff bullshit, right?
Exactly, yeah. The knighthood challenges, they don't take long at all. Like that's basically, it's like play the game and you'll unlock that stuff. You don't have to worry about grinding it out. They don't take that long. And the idea that you have to someone was complaining that you have to beat up thugs to get information, to get the premeditated, and they were like, oh, it's so difficult. It's like, no, if you just play open world games like you're supposed to, where you just play around in the open world, you just stumble upon these things. they're not difficult to do. So I've unlocked the secondary traversal mechanics for all the characters, which is weird. I will give you this. It's weird because you have to do 10 premeditated crimes per character.
Yeah.
So
you have to do 40. And you also have to do the timed, it's like a timed attack tutorial, but you have to do it 4 times. You have to do it for each character again, which is like, why?
So the same tutorial over and over again.
It's the same tutorial 4 times.
I don't think 40 side activities in an open world, even if that is total across all 4 characters, to unlock their secondary means of traversal is an unreasonable thing to complain about. Especially in the game where their base means of traversal seems so dysfunctional.
The base levels of traversal aren't that dysfunctional. They're quick. So this is what I found weird as well. People sort of complaining about them. But actually, so the main traversal mechanic I've found is the fast travel, which you unlock quite quickly. Like, it's not, it's a bit annoying to do. You have to scan these stupid drones. But once you've done it, the fast travel is so easy. The world is not that big. It doesn't feel that big at all. Like Gotham doesn't feel that big. But you've got the grappling hook is so forgiving. It like will launch you it'll attach like 100 meters away to a building and drag you 100 meters across the map. Then you hold X and it launches you up into the air and you just do the same thing again. And you can like zip across the city pretty darn quick before you even unlock the secondary traversal mechanic, which is kind of funny because people are complaining about it going, this is the main way you get about. It's like, no, it isn't. The way that the Batgirl sticks her little cape out and does a bit of a glide is so much slower than just using the grappling hook to just like go grapple, bzz, grapple, bzz. Like, yeah.
I think the grapple sounds like Spider-Man Swing, where they're like, oh yeah, copy my homework, but just change it a little bit.
Right. But no, so there's one thing that you do definitely feel if you play this game is that they maybe didn't know what they were doing or didn't know where they wanted to end up. Was it going to be a 4-player co-op where you had to all be playing at the same time and you would pick one main that you would level up so that it doesn't matter that you have to do the same thing to unlock, 10 premeditated crimes. Problem is when it's a single player game, you want to play as all the different characters.
Yeah.
And so you end up, so I've now grinded it out through 4 different characters, 40 different missions. And it does start to get like a bit like long in the tooth of why am I going out again to do this?
It does seem that there was some, I don't want to say serious, but like a fairly significant kind of like scope realignment of what they planned and what they wanted to do. So yeah, I mean, it doesn't ring all that surprising. But yeah, like
the crafting stuff's fine. It's kind of redundant. It feels like you're basically just making different suits that look cool in different ways, and the actual realities of how they function you don't really notice. They'll be like, "Oh, now you're power 300," whereas like an hour ago you were power 30, but the game doesn't feel any different. You just look different. So again, it's like it's a loot game, but is it really a loot game if it doesn't feel like it's really making much of a difference? If you play a single player sort of story game where the story is the most engaging part and the character section is the most engaging part, but they have to fill it with game. Otherwise it's going to be super short. That is what I think Gotham Knights effectively is.
So you said you're like 12 hours through and you reckon you're about halfway?
I think I'm about halfway, yeah.
Okay. It's not bad. It's a decent amount of time. Anyway, Jonesy, let's move on to some other news items, shall we? So,
but I'll when I finish it next week, I'll give an update on what I think of the game in its totality.
Should we have bets if you finish it or not?
Sure.
I think if Jonesy can do 12 hours in a week, he can finish it by this time next week. I just kind of wish I'd played some of it so I had more of a leg to stand on when it came to arguing with Jonesy. So there are things I'd love to argue about, but I can't.
Because this was the
go on. I want to hear one of the things.
But this was the interesting thing about seeing Jamie's reaction to a lot of the things you were saying, Jonesy, is Jonesy's played it. Jamie,
that's why I didn't say it. No, the only thing I really pulled a face at, even having not played it, was that Jonesy. I don't want to put words in your mouth but I can't remember the exact adjective you used.
Did I say fine? Did I say it was fine?
No, you used a positive adjective when comparing the way the Bat Cycle functions in Gotham Knights to the Batmobile in Arkham Knight. And I don't need to play Gotham Knights to know that I disagree with you.
If the Bat Cycle's better in this better in the sense that to go from A to B on the Bat Cycle, one good thing about it being a bike is that they basically send you through. You can go. It kind of sends you anywhere. Like it will go. Oh, this is the quickest way. So you just go under this and round that and through that and jump over this. Whereas I always found that the car in Arkham Knights was a weird addition that they put in that they then forced into levels in the game. But
you're comparing apples to oranges. You're comparing the traversal of the Batcycle to the puzzle solving of the Batmobile.
No, but I feel like the Batmobile in Arkham Knight was then, because they'd made it, they felt like they needed to for the traversal. They felt like they needed to force it into the other. That may well be true, but that doesn't mean the Batcycle's better just because it's not used in missions. No, not better. I'm saying that the overall feel of the two things in the two different games, one where I'm at, one of them made me more frustrated because it was like, you have to use it here and here and here, whereas the other one's like, you don't even have to use it if you don't want. Like you can just, if you don't want to touch the Batcycle. I still don't really think that tackles
the nature of the comparison we're making, but I do kind of get where you're coming from.
You know what, Jamie? You just got to buy the game, mate.
Jonesy, one more question. Since you've started playing Gotham Knights, have you seen a side-by-side comparison of Gotham Knights and Arkham Knight?
Yeah, I have, yes.
Okay. That's all, Your Honor.
You mean like visually?
Visual, tone, atmosphere, graphics, performance, everything.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
That's one thing actually that I didn't think was as bad as what I was assuming based on what I'd seen by the comparisons. Like, because a lot of people are like, look how great Arkham Knight is, look how shit Gotham Knights is. Mm-hmm. But actually, when you're playing the two, it feels like Gotham Knights was much more stylistic and trying to have a certain look and a feel, whereas Gotham Knights feels like more like it's an open world Gotham game. It doesn't feel like it's trying to be an Arkham game, whereas Arkham was super stylistic and super kind of comic booky and
almost Tim Burton-y at times.
Exactly, almost Tim Burton-y, whereas they're like, no, this isn't that. This is a more realistic Gotham, and it's just like buildings and roads. It's not supposed to be Tim Burton. It's not supposed to be super stylistic. It's more of a realistic kind of Gotham. But right. I'm fine. They've gone a different direction. I can't really criticize them for going a different direction. I can criticize them for the fact that it doesn't feel anywhere near as it should, given how the time that's passed between the two, like through look, frame rate, and stuff like that. That's one thing that drags it down. That does drag it down.
I don't need to have played Gotham Knights to say that this is the end. This is where we've arrived at after years of waiting and the uncertainty surrounding the future of like Batman games and Arkham games
this is
Rocksteady being tied up with other stuff.
What's super weird is if this had released alongside Arkham Knight and people had played, different people played both at the same time, and then I think people legitimately easily could have had arguments about, oh no, this is better, oh no, that's better, and they could have brought up different areas, which is ridiculous when you consider how the time that's passed between the two.
Oh, I see.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. Which is kind of damning in its own way.
One should be like Gotham Knights should be so far ahead in so many ways.
Yeah.
They're beyond comparison, whereas there's just not beyond comparison.
7.5 years. 7.5 years.
Yeah. Which is bizarre. Like, it's bizarre. Yeah.
Well, Jamie, I'm glad you brought up Rocksteady, because you heard that co-founders Sefton Hill and Jamie Walker are leaving the studio. So, this is kind of a weird one, right? So they came out and they said, they released a statement, and the statement said, with Suicide Squad Killed the Justice League nearly finished, they both decided to leave Rocksteady at the end of 2022, and we will begin a new adventure in gaming. So
that'll be so interesting to play Suicide Squad.
Totally.
After playing Gotham Knights. I cannot wait to see what that's like.
Do you know what? It kind of reminds me of some of our conversations about Rockstar. And we have all this weird thing of like, oh, what do Rockstar look like, without this person and that person, and without the houses and without Benzies, and what's the impact on GTA 6? And this is going to be another example of like, is this the lead, the heads of a studio leaving because the project, is... Like, of course they're going to say it's great and it's nearly finished, it's in safe hands. Those are things you have to say, but where's Suicide Squad really at, and how far away from release is it, and when will we see gameplay, and who's going to kind of see it home? And
well, according to Rockstar, they say, now with Suicide Squad in safe hands and the team here stronger than ever, it's time to hand over the reins and start a new adventure together on games. Sorry, that was the statement from Sefton Hill and Jamie Walker. So they're saying like, the game's not finished.
How
it's in
much
safe
of
hands,
it? But how much of that is buffer zone so that they can get away from it. So when it comes out, that they can go, hey man, we'd left.
Exactly. Because if the game's nearly finished, just fucking stay and reap the rewards. Like you have your name, be part of that like process of promoting the game. But then again, they're kind of stepping back at like a time when it's almost done. It's
Like especially because I don't know how those contracts look, but like your co-founders of the studio, like there might be some bonuses on the line. Like there might be a sales milestone bonus or a Metacritic bonus. Just like get it cross over the line, make another one of the critically acclaimed hits that you've always made. Well, made since Arkham Asylum and onwards. Like Jonesy said, win your awards and take your plaudits and then move on. But to be like, we've spent the best part of 8 years developing this game, and we're gonna leave just before it comes out.
There's almost like I don't want to be like conspiratorial, but there's almost like did they leave of their own accord, or was there some behind the scenes? Hey guys, we've played the game. You need to leave before it comes out because then you can say it wasn't your fault. Then we can blame you for it. Then
it's kind of hard though, right? Like I think if you're talking about like let's say a creative director of this singular title and they leave just before it comes out, then you could kind of like maybe be a little bit more certain in your assertions as to why they would have done it. But these are like the heads of the studio, the whole enchilada, as they say.
Yeah.
And, heads of studios kind of weather the storm, as it were, through good games, bad games, and all the games in between. It's just curious timing is all, I think. Very curious.
It could also be that coincidence is a hell of a thing, and you look at sort of like the game development and how the sausage is made, and we don't know enough about Rocksteady, and how heavily involved Sefton Hill and Jamie Walker might be in the day-to-day of things. Yeah. Like, yes, they're studio co-founders, but in the case of like Rockstar, we talked about that for the houses meant that they like wrote and directed some of those games. I don't know that Hill and Walker like wrote or directed Suicide Squad. They might have just been overseeing the studio and overseeing the team.
That might have been pushed out of their role as well, right?
Oh no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying
what I'm saying is like they might have gone to a point where they didn't feel that they were contributing anything to the company. Anymore.
Especially in a big game where like, hey, what if most of the creative decisions have already been made and the fundamentals of the game have been laid and the blueprint's there? And what if the last 12 months has been technical stuff? What if the last 12 months has been like optimization and bug fixing and doing this, that, and the other? And they have just been sat around saying, like, twiddling their thumbs, being like, it'd be really cool to like start thinking about what's next, and we can't. And then all of a sudden, like another opportunity comes in where like someone with a big fat check to write comes in and says, hey, if you two start a new studio with me, I'll give you this much money to like have carte blanche for your next game. And they go, actually, we do want to do a startup again, and we don't want to, because the other thing about Rocksteady is I'm pretty sure these two have been there the whole time. I think they founded the company. Not everyone who founds a studio, I think inside the last 20 years, wants to also be the co-runners of a studio that has hundreds of employees. Like these things happen naturally over time, but just because you started in one place doesn't mean you wanted to end up in the other. As like we started this now, if like it's the three of us, it's not a business. If this were a business, like if in 20 years' time we were co-running a studio with 300 people and everything that entailed, and someone said, hey, how do you guys want to leave and just start another podcast, and here's a massive black check to do whatever you want with it, we might say, actually, let's go back. Let's be creative again. Let's do something new. I don't want to manage.
That's good.
I don't want to worry about HR for 300 people anymore.
That's a fair point. And to Hill and Walker's like, I don't know what the word is, but like to their what's the word? God, my mind is turning into mush. They have in their joint statement said that whatever they do next, they will be doing it together. So it's not like, they just decided, just spend time with our families or whatever it is. Like, no, they want to do something. They're going to do it together. And could be interesting. Yeah. Could be really, really interesting.
For sure.
I did just look it up. So Sefton Hill apparently directed Suicide Squad.
Okay.
But interestingly, one of the writers, Kim McCaskill, who was let go in 2019, said that she asked to have her name taken off the project because of like bad blood, and the fact that there was a load of stuff that came out apparently about the development of the game that wasn't great back in 2018.
Yeah. Weird.
Yeah.
I will say, when it's all said and done, I'm still really looking forward to that game. I think it could be very interesting. And I think Rocksteady, but put it this way, the Gotham Knights has reminded me of Arkham Knight, and Arkham Knight has reminded me how, in some ways, ahead of their time, Rocksteady have been in their sort of like post-Batman arc game development sort of story. And I really hope they cook up another hit.
Yeah,
it would. The weird thing is, like, it's at the point though where I don't want to see like an Arkham spin-off. I want to see them do something just as amazing as the first sort of time I've.
It doesn't.
played
it doesn't look like it in the bits we have seen, right?
It doesn't.
It looks more like a 4-player co-op Sunset Overdrive.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah.
Which then, when you think about that, is like, how does that work? Like, how's that going to feel to play? But hey,
yeah, it'll be interesting. Well, it's like Jamie was saying, like you need a studio who is kind of ahead of the curve, right? To be able to potentially even hope to pull off something that sounds as absurd as that.
It's actually kind of weirdly ironic as well, because like Gotham Knights, I think wouldn't have had the bad reception it's had. Like I don't think that game's bad. I don't think it's particularly good. I think it's like a decent superhero game, but it seems to be so much worse because of how good Rocksteady made the Arkham games, and like the last one they made was 8 years ago, which is amazing that you're still under the shadow of a game that came out so long ago. And even though you make a perfectly, fine game, it just doesn't seem that great because someone did it so much better, like years ago, almost a decade ago.
Yeah. Well,
so
Jonesy, it's always tricky, kind of like taking a property and handing it over between studios, right? And maybe none more so than the potential for a new Metal Gear Solid game, or rather a remake of an old Metal Gear Solid game to be a new Metal Gear Solid game, because there have been rumors swirling around that a Chinese studio, Virtuos, are remaking Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. Jamie, as the resident Metal Gear head, as it were, what's your take on this?
It's funny, it's been so long since Metal Gear's been a thing that even I don't feel like a Metal Gear head anymore. Like, I don't know. Joe, if this does end up being the case, and I think there's plenty of reasons to believe that the reporting around this is accurate, I think this is a perfectly logical step to take. Look at what Konami did last week with Silent Hill. They came out and they said, yeah, we're going all on Silent Hill again, and that means this, that, and the other. And whilst, yes, there are new entries being made, the headline, takeaway from last week's Silent Hill revival was that Bloober Team are remaking Silent Hill 2. And, that was what they put the most energy and effort and emphasis on. And I think that's what makes sense for Metal Gear Solid as well. Like, you don't have Kojima. I very much doubt that Konami and Kojima are going to be in bed with one another ever again. So for as long as that's the case, don't try and fake any Kojima bullshit. Don't try and do your own Kojima bullshit. Rely on the bullshit that Kojima's already given you and you still own the rights to. And do you know what? Like, does it make sense to jump straight in and do Snake Eater first on its own? Not necessarily, but at the same time, like, if you're going to pick one out, it's a fan favorite, and it's
but does it make sense? And you're going to have to correct me here.
Not as Kojima intended.
Sure, not as Kojima intended. May he rest in peace in life, and Stranding. No, but in terms of the chronology of the story, doesn't it make sense to start here?
Yes. Yes.
So if
we were doing the chronology of the story, like, nothing would make sense, because the first handful of games would be like 3 and Peace Walker and a remake of 5, which was actually the last one, and then you'd go back through like the Metal Gears themselves, and you'd have to figure out whether or not like Portable Ops is canon, and there's a bunch of bullshit.
Acid, mate. It's all about Metal Gear Acid.
The less said about acid, the better. But look, remake Metal Gear Solid 3. Those games, I'd be very interested to see what a gameplay revival, a gameplay kind of rethink of those would look like. I think there's lots As we've seen with the Pachinko machine debacle, there's also going to be done to the art direction, the style of that game that can lend itself to some really cool cinematic presentation. Reworking Kojima's eye for directing really intricate and action movie-oriented cutscenes. I'd love to see that brought to life for the current generation of consoles. This could be really cool. I don't know anything about Virtuos and how well positioned they are to do it, but if Konami got back in the business of Metal Gear, this would be amongst the most sensible ways to do it.
Yeah, it's interesting. So a recruitment video recently surfaced from their Montreal office seemed to show a book all about the art of Metal Gear Solid, fueling speculation that the studio are working on a Metal Gear Solid remake in some way, shape, or form, which, these weren't rumors have been swirling around for, I don't know, multiple years now, if anything. Apparently, multiple sources from within the company last year revealed to VGC that the studio had the license to remake Snake Eater. And another source last year also claimed they were working on a AAA action-adventure remake, but didn't mention the Metal Gear franchise name. So, could be...
I think it's all rumors, isn't it? It's all speculation. But when you get decent sources saying the same things multiple times and kind of confirming, and then you get something. The recruitment video is quite funny if you see it, because it's one of those things where it's like, you didn't need to have that book there. Like, you could have just moved it.
Yeah.
And it's easily could have been an oversight. Like, I've worked in offices where you're editing and you got this and you've just got something sitting on your side. And hey, maybe this person was just a fan of like Metal Gear, but is it?
No, yeah.
Or is it like
I see.
Carefully placed?
I'll be honest, like having had to make recruitment videos, especially recently, fucking sometimes the shit that is on people's desk is, guess what? It's the shit that's on their desk and hasn't been placed there and hasn't been thought about. And it's like sometimes shit just fucking appears and sometimes not, like fucking hell. It is a weird thing, but much like we said with Silent Hill, there isn't fire without a bit of smoke, right?
Yeah. And it's interesting that VGC are kind of like the point of reference for a lot of this stuff, because when it came to Silent Hill, VGC basically were batting 100 throughout and got everything correct down to the Bloober Team remake of 2 to Annapurna's involvement in the independent take on it and so on and so forth. And Andy Robinson, who I think is the editor-in-chief of VGC, tweeted something really, like, when the Silent Hill thing happened, he, like, quote tweeted his article about Konami, and he was like, "1 down, ... And so the VGC, as it goes, are still very much on board with their own reporting and suggest that more Metal Gear and Castlevania is still to come, which I don't have any difficulty believing. I don't think Konami do what they do for Silent Hill.
I'm on board.
And leave the rest.
Yeah, Konami have always been revenue focused, as all companies are, but them particularly, it would seem, pachinko machines and all. But it would seem that like if you open up the possibility to a Silent Hill 2 remake, then you're opening up the possibility, the inevitability even, of a Metal Gear Solid remake, and maybe not remakes in Castlevania, but additions to Castlevania for sure. It's to my mind, it's just a matter of time. It's an if, it's a when, not an if.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I agree.
Agreed.
I agree.
Yeah. Right, fellas. Well, if there's nothing else that you want to add to the crazy world of upcoming video game development, because that's kind of where we're at in the news cycle in this, at this time of the year, then I think it's time that we bid adieu.
So you could almost go so far as to say that right now is the video game news equivalent of Fimble Winter.
Wow!
Everyone's just waiting for the big apocalyptic event around the corner.
Yeah, which is literally just going to be the release of that game, and I can't fucking wait. Have you guys pre-ordered it yet?
I have not. No.
I haven't either.
It's one of those things that, like, I will technically, but I don't know. This is going to sound like a really dumb thing to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. Once you realize that there's no difference between a pre-order that's made at 11:59 p.m. the day before the release, and a pre-order that's made 11 months before release, then you kind of like stop pre-ordering because it's like
exactly. Yeah,
I'm 98% digital now anyway. What's the difference?
Yeah, exactly. And you just want that pre-order bonus. And exactly right. I think that's what I did with the previous God of War. Funny enough, is I think I pre-ordered it I think it was within the preload window, and then that was it. I was like, yeah, done. It's like fuck it.
How do you think the game is going to? Because it's kind of rare for all three of us to jump into the same game pretty much on launch day. How do you guys think it's going to work into your schedules? We've had The Last of Us 2, it kind of took us probably 2 months for all to kind of reconvene on that. I'm not sure if it's happened since then.
Have we got an idea? Have they said how long the game is yet? Is it like?
I think they just said it's bigger than 2018. So,
okay,
make of that what you will. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to think I can get it finished in a month, but if it's bigger than 2018, then maybe that'll be punchy.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to do some real work if I'm gonna fucking work my way through it. Jamie,
because I want to say it was like 30, God of War 2018 was like 30 hours, was it, or 25 hours, or was it not that long?
I thought it was like 30 to 40. No,
I think it was only 30 to 40 if you did everything.
Yeah. I nearly 100%ed it. I'm pretty sure, but I didn't. So, and I think I was probably there for about 25 hours or so. If this is going to be like 35 hours to finish the campaign, then I reckon maybe
you're looking at how long to beat, Chris.
Yeah, so I've got it as main story 20 and a half hours, main and sides 32 and a half, completionist 51, all styles 32. So I usually follow the all styles personally. I find that to be a more accurate representation. Because look, no one plays a game these days just focusing on main story, because just the way that games are kind of structured is you always veer off into some of the side stuff. Now, you talk about completionist, you talk about going up against all the fucking Valkyries, which is a fucking big task,
Oh my God, that was awful.
And it was also that fucking, what was it? Was it Niflheim? Was it...
There were...
Helheim.
Helheim was the one with all the different challenges around the hell environment. And
but then which was the foggy one?
Was the maze.
The maze, yeah.
The foggy maze, yeah.
Yeah,
where you were collecting a resource, and you had a time limit that and you had to go to this big treasure area and spend the resources you were collecting.
Yeah, but I reckon if you take those two things away, you've probably knocked out 10 hours relatively easy. Depending on how good you are at the game, I guess.
Yeah, I remember not being at work that week. I remember completing the story fairly quickly. I that game must have come out on a Tuesday, right? And I had the platinum by the time I got back to work on the Monday.
So, Jesus.
But I want to say God of War 2018. I think I did a couple of 8-hour sessions. But
also to get the platinum doesn't mean you didn't beat all the Valkyries to get the platinum, right?
I did. No, I did. It was all the side missions. It was all the Valkyries. It was both of those two kind of optional realms. It was all of Odin's ravens. It was everything.
Wow.
But I wanted to. I couldn't stop playing that game. So
yeah. So if you did 8-hour play sessions to get through, according to this completionist of 51 hours, it would have taken you 6.375 days.
I mean, that lines up. But I didn't do 8 hours every day. And I don't think I'm going to... I know it's only been 4 years, but I don't think I can do 8 hours for this one just because I don't feel like I'm built the same as I was when I was 25. Far more human. I'm going to start falling asleep. But I feel like we could maybe have a chat about the story by Christmas. Is that...
I'd like to think so, yeah.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
I definitely strive for it. The thing is, I remember God of War, I think I finished it in a relatively decent amount of time. Obviously not the fucking few days that you did. And the reason was because I fucking squirrel gamed the shit out of that game. Because I was so into the story and the combat and all the systems. And it wasn't necessarily rough going. There were challenges here and there, but it was pretty smooth. And I'd imagine to be much the same on this one. So yeah, I'd be keen on it. Do as much as I can. Yeah.
I was gonna look up my trophies and try and actually figure it out. But maybe that's for another day. That's getting a bit too niche.
Can't you log into your thing and see what your playtime is?
So, I can't see the playtime on my phone. I can tell you. Does anyone have what time when the game came out? The date the game came out.
Yeah, I could find that out for you.
Yes.
The date.
April 20th.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got the trophy for fulfilling the last wish. Basically, I got the trophy for finishing the game at 8:30 on the 23rd. So day 3.
3 days.
Yeah. And
Wow.
I got the platinum at 2:30 in the morning on the 27th. So the night of the 26th.
Okay.
That is impressive. Yeah, there's no way I'm gonna get anywhere near.
Yeah.
But again, that was no lifing it, which I don't
But-
recommend anyone do.
Yeah, but I think by Christmas is potentially doable. There's the person who is still playing Elden Ring, but there we go.
Elden Ring's like a fucking...
It's like a
as long as you
100-hour
want it to be,
game.
though. Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. At least this is like, there's a path,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I wonder Elden Ring how long to beat.
Yeah, Elden Ring's how long? Well, because how can you even quantify the kind of like the side stuff of Elden Ring? Because there's like 100 and something bosses.
Yeah, it's hard. So main story, if you just follow the main story, it's 54 hours. Okay. Main and sides, 98 and a half. Completionist, 132. All styles, 106.
When were you going to finish? When was the thing originally? Because it was last Christmas we were talking about it. And you were going to have finished Elden Ring by... I can't remember. You were saying because you were saying
No.
You were going to have to finish
Sekiro.
Yeah, by the time it came out. But you did finish Sekiro, didn't you?
No.
I thought you had finished Sekiro.
No, the thing was I had to finish Dark Souls, which I did in December.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Then I had to finish Sekiro, which I didn't manage to do by the time Elden Ring came out. And on Sekiro, I've only got 2 bosses left, which is the final boss and the final optional boss. But yeah, Elden Ring, great game. And like the most value for money you're ever going to get out of a fucking game. Like, yeah, it's mental.
Is it though? Like, if you had one puzzle in a game that you just couldn't solve, I don't think I would say it's the best value game I've ever played because I couldn't solve it.
Because it's not unsolvable. It's just density of
I didn't
content.
say an unsolvable puzzle. I'm just saying like a really hard puzzle that you can't solve.
No, but it's because that's not what's making me take a long time to play the game. And it's density and the quality of the game rather than the challenge or the difficulty.
I need to play Elden Ring.
Can I ask
really
a quick
wanna play it.
question?
And it's also it launched at £50 or $50, whatever. So like
I think
you take that into consideration. That is the fucking value of the century.
I think I'm going to hate it, but I really want to play it just to see if I hate it.
Can I ask a question, Chris?
Yeah.
Within like the realms of feasibility, can God of War Ragnarok be your game of the year this year? Or do you think it's nigh on impossible?
Oh no, it's got a very hard thing to do to beat Elden Ring, but it is possible. Yeah, sure. Like you got to remember, like God of War was my game of the year 2018. I mean, I think it was all of our game of the year of 2018.
It was like joint for me.
Yeah, fair. But the thing that really stuck out about God of War 2018 for me was the story beats at a time when my son was just about to be born. So there was a lot of kind of like introspection going on there, which kind of helped push it along for me. It'll be interesting to see like how that can continue potentially. But also like while I did enjoy previous God of War entries, I was never like mad about God of War. And then when I played it, it was almost like a revelation on how much just how far they came and changed the formula. So yeah, never say never.
Outrageous. Out bloody rageous.
Whatever, mate.
You hater.
Whatever. But yeah, there we go. Everybody, thank you so much for joining me on this journey as we delve deeper into the psyche of a SuperShow game fan. And I think there's nothing else left to say except for I hope you have a great week, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
See ya.